Well, hello everyone, and we're going to give folks a couple more minutes. There's still a few more that need to join, so I'd say about 2 or 3, and then I'll come on and we'll do a little bit of housekeeping and then turn it over to Melody. Okay, it looks like we have pretty much everybody that registered. So welcome and thank you for joining today's Design Awards workshop. I'm Jeff Guild, Executive Director for AI Orange County. And a few housekeeping items. One, please keep yourself on mute. We have a lot of attendees. It's just going to make it for a cleaner presentation. We will monitor that as well. So if you start talking, you may be on mute but didn't realize it. But just keep it that way. And the reason is that we have 2 Q&A sessions. One at the end of Corey's presentation on the framework for design excellence, and then one at the end of the presentation on the submission process. So please use the chat box. What will happen is I will be reading off the questions there. That's going to be the easiest way to be able to include you in this conversation, get your questions answered. And then also, please know, all of us want this to be an easy process for you. When you're going through your submission process here over the next 4 or 5 weeks, feel free to contact me. Reach out. Don't get yourself frustrated or back into a corner. Just reach out with any questions. If I can't assist you, I'll get you to the right source. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Melody to talk about the workshop.
Okay, I just did the classic Zoom mistake, which was I talked while I was muted. So hopefully everybody can now hear me. Again, as Jeff mentioned, my name is Melody Tang. I am the AIA Orange County Director of Design for this year, and I wanted to welcome you all to this workshop. Thank you very much for attending. We're really excited. There's a lot of changes for this year, some for obvious reasons and some for not so obvious reasons. But our committee is fantastic. We've been making some great plans, and we think this is going to be one of the best years ever. So just moving right into it, the previous slide you saw that we have a full slate of items on today's agenda. We are going to focus mostly on the framework for design excellence because I know that is something that's new to many of you. However, we will also make time to go over a few of the logistical items in case there's any questions about formatting or how the actual design process. There's a few tips on how to craft a really strong awards entry, so we will have time for that as well. We will have a couple of people from our committee will be speaking today. There's certainly are many more on a committee, but just wanted to highlight and thank Ozzy Tapia and also Anders Lassiter, who will be helping to run the workshop today. We also have a special guest, Corey Squire, who I will introduce a little bit later as well. But certainly many more people on the committee. I know I just saw Suyama show up, and also I know that certainly Jeff and Sharon are also from AIA Orange County are integral to this whole process. All right, so let us start. This is the website that some of you may already be familiar with if you've already started the process of figuring out how to submit your design award. This is the home page. Why don't we, Sharon, can you please move us over to the award categories page just so we can quickly uh, give everyone a recap. One thing that has not changed this year, we will have separate residential and commercial categories. If you've submitted in past years, you're probably familiar. You've got the residential custom, residential planned development, commercial, and commercial interiors. So those categories are the same. We will, as in previous years, we will be separating the built versus unbuilt submissions. They will be considered together when the jury looks at them. And that will be the same. The Inspire Award also will still be there. What is new for this year, in lieu of choosing a featured category this year, we thought it would be fun to bring in a new feature called the Members' Choice Award or People's Choice Award. Really, it's an opportunity for all of our AIA Orange County community to weigh in on what your favorite project is from all the projects that have been submitted for the year. We're still working out all the logistics of how to make that happen, but we're going to plan on being able to have that be a voting opportunity for when we roll out the live virtual design awards gala. So more details on that will follow. I'm sure that there will be much more interest in that. All right, so next, let us look at, oh, and then just also one more quick note, a question that has come up in previous years about the different categories. There is no minimum or maximum number of awards. When the jury considers what projects to give an award to, they have full discretion of how many awards they're giving. So please don't feel that, you know what, there's only, 2 awards to be given in this category and there's too many entries and I don't have a chance. Really, the jury is looking at each project on its own merits and whether it warrants being given an award. So can we move now to the homepage? I think it might be good to just give everybody a quick overview of the schedule. If we scroll down to where the schedule is, the submissions are already open. You can go online, you can start your registration. There's a nice click this link here to start your submission. We do have a deadline of July 24th for early bird registration. So get those submissions in early and you will be able to take advantage of the lower fee. Then after the 24th, the price for registering will go up, but you can still go ahead and submit your projects. The final deadline will be August 7th. Submissions are due and there's no exceptions, no extensions. We've got to have them be due because the jury deliberations will be taking place shortly thereafter. We will also have an opportunity to submit your boards, actual physical boards, to the chapter office, and we are planning on having an opportunity to display those boards as well this year. And then finally, late September, we haven't exactly nailed down the date yet, but it will be late September. We will release the virtual awards gala. So that's a summary of the schedule. So moving on, if we scroll up just a little bit, you can see the biggest change for this year is the design excellence, the framework for design excellence. This is a move that we as a committee decided along with the board of directors, just because of the larger movement that is happening, watching what is going on at AIA National, as well as at many other chapters around the country. We're just sort of aligning ourselves to where all of the other AIA communities are going, and it's a holistic framework that describes what design excellence entails. And we will get more into that. That's why we have Corey here to kind of break that down and explain what the framework is. But just to let everyone know, it's actually not going to be a huge change to how you've been submitting your projects in the past. Really, the only thing that's additional that you might not have done in previous years is that within your project description, you will be asked to explain how you've addressed at least one of these 10. We're not asking you to write an essay about each of these 10 measures. I mean, that would be quite a feat and not expected at all. Really, we're just looking for one, maybe two, for you to explain how your project has helped address one of these categories. And you can certainly support what you're providing in your written narrative with your images that you submit. So again, that's all you're doing. We are not going to create, spreadsheets for you to fill out, tons of metrics, charts, data. This is not about that at all. We want to make this a simple and approachable process for everybody, and really just celebrate great design, and that's what we're here to do. So now I'd like to introduce our special guest, Corey Squire. He is an architect and a member of an advisory group to the AIA at a national level. And in fact, he was a leading author of the 10 measures that you see here that now make up this framework for design excellence. And I would love to just turn this over to him because he will be able to help break down exactly what these 10 measures are that define design excellence for the built environment.
All right, great. Thanks for the introduction, Melody. I'm super thrilled to be here to talk about the framework for design excellence and how it can impact design really at all levels, from every chapter in the country through awards programs, just to kind of how we do our work. So I guess a good way to start is I'll give a little bit of background on the framework design excellence, what it is, how it came to be, and then I'd like to just touch briefly on each of the 10 measures, give you an idea of some resources available and also some thoughts around the prompts to write that single narrative, choosing one of those measures for the award submission. So the framework for design excellence started as the COTE Top 10 framework. It was in the late 90s when the Committee on the Environment nationally put out an awards program, the COTE Top 10, which was designed to simultaneously award projects for beauty and performance. This idea of architecture both celebrating form and function simultaneously. And over the past 25 years, every year 10 projects have been selected for the COTE Top 10, the national award, that really kind of represent this ideal of performance, sustainability, beauty as fundamental to good design. More recently, the AIA has been increasingly serious about focusing on sustainability, tackling climate change, looking at broad societal issues, everything from equity to health in the built environment, to global warming, to pollution, to community. And really, where does architecture fit into these societal conversations? What do we do as a profession that benefits individual people? So a resolution was put together by my committee, the Committee on the Environment, and brought to the board of directors of the AIA in 2019, where we asked for three things. We asked for the AIA to declare a climate imperative to really focus on issues around carbon, energy efficiency, and climate change, to adopt the COTE Top 10 framework as the new framework for design excellence, and through that process really just transform the day-to-day work of the members of the organization, of the AIA, and then finally to use our leverage as a almost 100,000 person organization to build support and to rally around these ideas. So that resolution went to the floor of the convention and it was approved with 93% of membership. So that just shows kind of where the profession is, where how much power and momentum and passion there is around these ideas. So the board formally adopted the framework for design excellence. A working group was set up to really refine the measure, make sure that all important issues were covered, from equity to resiliency, to carbon, to human health in the built environment. And then just 2 days ago, the board formally adopted the framework for design excellence as the new definition of great design in the architectural profession. So I'm going to read the introduction really briefly. That was the quick paragraph that was approved by the board yesterday. And then I'm going to go through each of these measures to really give you an idea of what's behind them. So this is from the board of directors. Again, only 2 days ago was this for the second time formally adopted, but it's for real this time. So this is how it's going to stay. The framework for design excellence is a vision for the built environment that is resilient, safe, and equitable for all members of our community. The 10 measures that make up the framework provide the opportunity for an open-ended dialogue that facilitates a more deeply integrated, visually rich design solution. They are accessible, the 10 measures are accessible to both professionals and the general public and presented in language where everyone can contribute. The questions that they ask not only illuminate opportunities to integrate sustainability, but further a deeper understanding of our clients, future building inhabitants and communities in the communities in which they reside. And then one level below the framework is the toolkit. Basically, each of these 10 measures make up the framework, but the AIA is also providing resources to help help every practitioner understand how to incorporate these strategies into their design. So I think we're going to walk through each of these right now. There's 10 measures, and you can just stay on this front page, and for each of these 10 measures, there's kind of probing questions and a few topics to think about, and you can think about these as prompts. So design for integration. What is the big idea behind the project? How does the form and function integrate to reinforce the project goals? So this is about bringing it all together. This is about how performance, sustainability, equity is not a building with a bunch of features added on, but fundamentally the design and the performance integrate into a consistent whole. Designing for equitable communities, the second measure. This is all about how does the project create a walkable human scale community that really connects with the existing framework, that engages the surrounding community to bring their ideas into the project and to make sure that all of society feels welcome and represented within architecture. Design for ecology. This is really about the local ecosystem and how a building interacts with and respects its place. So what does the project do for the non-human environment? This could be issues around bird-friendly design, around dark sky initiatives, around providing native plants and habitats. So the next one, number 4, design for water. This is more of a traditional sustainability measure, but incredibly important to bring to kind of the level of this broader interpretation of great design. So how does the building treat water as a precious resource, both in terms of potable water that is filtered by the municipality and brought to a building, but also in terms of stormwater? How is stormwater managed on site to prevent runoff and prevent overflow in city systems? How does it restore ecological water flow? So what from this building is contributing to, I don't know, pollution of rivers or pollution from of local waterways? How can the water be reused? So is gray water from sinks used to flush toilets, or irrigation? Is water collected to limit the demand on the municipal systems? Number 5, design for economy. This is an incredibly important measure, and it talks about how sustainability or great design in general is not just about spending more money and buying more things, but it's really providing value for our clients. So fundamentally, how does this project provide abundance while still living within its means, right? What sorts of economies of scale can be brought to a project? How can materials be reused or used in an interesting way that could lower the budget but improve performance at the same time? How can a project be right-sized? So you're making sure that you're building only what you need, maybe flexible spaces, so that you can decrease square footage but provide a benefit for the client. The next one, number 6, design for energy. All about energy conservation, but also about carbon. We're thinking about carbon a lot in terms of kind of the reason behind energy reduction. So both embodied carbon and also operational carbon. What does your project do to address these two issues and try to decrease the amount of carbon in the atmosphere that's contributed to this project? It's also about alternative energy sources, either now or in the future. How can a project be designed to allow solar panels, for instance, on a roof, if they're not cost effective now, but they might be in 5 years, or other potential energy sources in the future? Number 7, design for wellness. This might be the topic of the day because of the pandemic that we're currently dealing with. Fundamentally, buildings are where we spend all of our time. They have huge impacts on our health. This measure goes to daylighting. This is the indoor air quality. Do you have a filtration system that could filter airborne viruses out of a building? Do you have a tight envelope that controls maybe the influx or prevents the influx of potential forest fire smoke, which is an issue in the West Coast, as I'm sure you're all aware. Daylighting, views, biophilia. How does the building benefit the health of the occupants, both in the moment that they're there? How does it improve their well-being and their mood, both physically and mentally, but also over the long term? What chemicals are they exposed to? And how are they kind of invited to spend comfortable time outdoors? So number 8, design for resources. This touches a few different measures that we've already touched upon. So it connects to healthy materials or preventing toxicity in buildings from design for wellness, also embodied carbon from design for energy, but really focus on the materials that are being used for this building. How can we make sure that the materials that we're selecting don't cause damage elsewhere, right? How do you ensure equity within the supply chain and prevent the depletion of natural resources, whatever they might be? How do you focus on natural materials rather than synthetic materials? Or even how do you celebrate the materials? Getting people close to wood or stone or other natural materials. Design for change is measure number 9. This has 2 major focuses. One is resiliency, another important topic of our time because of the pandemic. We don't know what disruptions are going to come in the future, but we do know that there are strategies that we can employ in every building to prepare for them. Is this about battery backup? Is it about passive survivability? So if the power goes out, can the building still serve its function? Does it collect and filter water? So if the municipal water system goes down, the project can still support the occupants. It's also about this idea of long life, loose fit. So there are building types that we're building today, which might not be relevant in the future. Maybe we're gonna have less office space because many people will continue working from home. How can an office design today gradually change into another building type over time, right? A classic example even for this is parking garages that have high floor slabs so that they can be transformed into living space if cars go away. Finally, design for discovery. This kind of pulls it all together. Design for discovery is about continuously learning from a building, both as occupants and as architects and practitioners. It's really important that we stay engaged with our projects in the long term, both so we can improve them post-occupancy, but also so we can gain lessons from them to improve our own practice and then improve the practice in general. We also want occupants to learn from our buildings. So providing opportunities for that kind of embedded within the design. So those are the 10 measures, super broad, they're all equally important. There's not any sort of hierarchy. And if you dig into this website, it becomes the toolkit. So for instance, let's click on design for wellness. And you can kind of see what resources live beneath these tiles. For each of the measures, there are focus topics that are pulled out. So if you want to understand how your project might respond to some of these, read through the focus measures, and that can help you craft your narrative for the award submission. Also, if you look at the bottom, there's best practices. Each of these measures has something like 5 to 10 best practices per focus area. There's over 500 best practices embedded in this document among all different areas. So natural and artificial lighting, strategies around thermal comfort. So these are design strategies that everybody has access to, and you can just kind of dig in and apply these directly to your project. The best practices are designed to be broadly applicable, easy to understand, and for the most part, not cost intensive. The next tab after the best practices is the high impact strategies. This is if you can only do one thing, or if you can only do a few things in your project. Let's say that your project is especially tight on budget or time or has other difficult constraints, there's still an ability to apply some aspects of the framework for design excellence, the 10 measures, to every project. Finally, the next tab, resources. There's links to web resources that can help you dig in further. And then projects, there's links to, each of the measures provides links to a few top 10 winning projects that especially excel in this area, just to provide either precedence or inspiration for your projects. So we're discussing the framework for design excellence right now as a documentation tool, something that helps you write your narrative for submitting for the for your local design awards. But it's incredibly powerful as a design tool. The framework could be used to having conversations with your clients or even internally with your design team to set project goals. And then you can dig in to understand the strategies to help you achieve those goals. So briefly, that's the framework, and I just want to give a little bit of an idea of what's happening in other chapters. This is being adopted by chapters both at the local and the state level, and then in national awards programs as well. So last year, the city of San Antonio, where I am, adopted the framework for design excellence for all our design awards. And we actually asked for narratives around 3 of the measures rather than just 1. And we also asked for a bunch of metrics. So you have it really, really easy. Also this year, the state of California, if you're submitting for a state award, you'll see that there's a spreadsheet that references metrics in all these areas that we're asking for. Colorado just adopted this framework for their awards. The city of Seattle, the city of Minneapolis, the city of Madison, Wisconsin, Kansas City, Austin, New York is exploring this idea as well. Washington, D.C. did. So this is gaining prominence. This is kind of began as a grassroots effort, began as this definition of sustainability, but broadly, the adoption of the framework by the AIA and its dissemination into the awards programs is really symbolizing the blending of sustainability and design into one single design imperative, one single goal. So there's a high design projects and then the weird hippie sustainability projects. There is just design excellence. It's not meant to be quantitative. It's not meant to fundamentally cause new calculations or it's really about qualitative performance. What does your project do? How does it benefit the community? How does it benefit the occupants? How does it benefit the planet? So that is what I had to share about the framework, and I am available for questions if anyone has any. We can have questions about the framework, the website, how to think about this for the design program, or just anything broader that I might have mentioned.
Or we don't have anything in our chat box, which hopefully means everybody totally gets this. However, I think you can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question now. We will have another Q&A here at the end if you want to think about it as well.
Hey, Corey, I'll jump in with a question. My name is William. A lot of the projects that we see as the examples, and definitely in a lot of the pictures here, tend to be larger of nature. And I know that there's quite a bit of interiors work that's done in Orange County, and also quite a bit of residential, not just on the multifamily side of things. Is there anything that you could encourage or speak to that might play into those areas of practice?
Yes, I could definitely speak to that. The framework is designed to cover all areas of practice. So it is true that most of the Code Top 10 winners in the past have been commercial projects, often larger ones. There are some single family residential, and there's definitely some interior finish outs as well. But one thing about, one benefit of the framework, as opposed to, I guess, a rating system, for instance, is there's nothing that you have to do, right? There's no requirements associated with the framework. It's broad guidance about what to be thinking about. So in terms of, let's just say a single family residential, for instance, there's a lot that you can do in the area of wellness. So how do you provide great indoor air quality, great daylighting? How do you avoid glare? How do you, something like design for aging, for instance, could be under wellness. Change is also really important in that area. So if a single family residential client, they might want to spend the next 20, 30, 40 years in this project that you're designing for them. What does the climate look like in 20, 40, 30, 40 years, right? How's the project designed to accommodate that? What types of potential risks are we going to face? What does shelter at home mean in the area where all of us are sheltering at home? What is the definition of shelter? That gets to resiliency, that gets to design for change, that gets to wellness. So I would say that most of the measures will relate to different project types, and maybe not 100%. If you look at something like design for community, it's true that that might be less applicable to single family residential. But I do a lot of work personally on single family residential, and when I was at my former firm, Lake Flato, we did a lot of high performance single family residential, and the focus was always on wellness and resiliency. So two really powerful ways of thinking about that. This is what clients are asking about as well. I answer lots of questions about these days about how does this house going to keep me safe? How is this house going to be relevant with whatever is coming next?
Fantastic. Thanks, Corey.
Yep.
Corey, we do have a message in the chat line. And Melissa, please let me know if I misstate this. Are these resources available to non-members, such as marketing? I think the question may be, how would you access the Framework for Design Excellence?
So yeah, the Framework for Design Excellence is on the AIA's website. It is available to the general population, the general public. You don't have to be an AIA member to access the framework or these tools. If you search Framework for Design Excellence in Google, it'll be the first thing that comes up. And that's part of the idea behind this. It's not, again, it's not overly technical. This is something that we imagine clients bringing to their architect just as frequently as architects bring it to their clients.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Corey, well, thank you. There may be more here at the next Q&A, but at this point, I would like to turn it over to Anders Lassiter to speak about how to build a strong submission.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks, Corey, for that great introduction. You know, one thing that we're definitely going to lean on are those, the little bit of a cheat sheet there, the quick hits, that if you can do just this one thing. It's really interesting to see that distilled down to a couple of core ideas. And that's going to help us do our narratives and help convey the meaning of our projects. But I think that's a theme that we should carry forward with, thinking about how strong designs get represented and what projects get rewarded. After years and years and years now of seeing juries review projects and what motivates a jury to honor a project, or what even motivates a jury to look further at a project. It might be surprising to everyone just how quickly the jury moves through the work. And if there isn't something magic, if there isn't something somewhat intangible, before they get to the metrics, before they get to what it is your narrative says, if there isn't something that you can convey that captures their imagination, the likelihood that they're going to spend some time looking at your project goes down. And so we'd really like to encourage everybody to try and find a way to show their best work in an exceptional way. And if we go to the top of the website there, please, Sharon, under the submittal instructions, the first thing down is creating a strong awards entry. And this was some information that we compiled as a committee last year or the year before that and put up on the website, and really encapsulates what I think I've learned and what the others on the committee have learned about how a jury is going to be looking at your work, the kind of things they're going to be interested in, and how you can best display your work and talk about your work and be consistent about how you talk about the work. Because that's another thing I see often too, where we'll have a really beautiful entry and maybe the images are powerful, but the narrative doesn't support those images, or vice versa, where the narrative is really compelling, but the imagery or the diagrams don't seem to be in sync with that image. And so understanding what the information is you're trying to convey and how to best convey it is really important. So I encourage everybody to look through these keys and try to find a way to use them when you are putting together your particular entry. Not any one of them is more important than the other, but certainly all of them should be considered when putting your work together. So there's a little cheat sheet for you about how to create compelling awards entries. And my goal would be, it would be awesome if every project that got submitted was award worthy and we could award everybody. So the more awards we can give out, I think the better it is for our chapter. And the way we do that is by helping the chapter members convey their powerful work in a meaningful way. So please look at that. under the Submittal Instructions tab at the top, Sharon, there's also a couple of other things to be aware of, eligibility and fees and schedule. I know that Melody, you already talked about the schedule. Eligibility and fees, we should look at that real quick. So fundamentally, in terms of eligibility, you should be an architect in Orange County practicing anywhere in the world to submit, or you can be anywhere in the world with a project in Orange County. Really, the theme here is that it's the Orange County chapter of the AIA, and we want to celebrate the work done here and by those who practice here. So that's the basics with that. You do need to be an AIA member as well, because this is the AIA after all, and we want to support our members. There are the fees for the registration, and the early bird pricing, as Melody pointed out, is $275, and that'll go away on the 24th. So get in before that. For the Inspire Award, I don't believe we have a fee. Is that correct? No, I take it back. It's $50. Yeah, so $50. And if you're a member, that goes away. So it is free if you are an AIAOC member. And the Inspire Award has been a really interesting category to have in the last few years, because it's open to anybody and any idea, really. Anything that from the architect's perspective helps, you know, shift thinking about the built environment. It could be as simple as an innovative detail on a project that is otherwise, you know, not that spectacular, but you've got a great idea about how to achieve a particular condition. Or it could be something as, you know, spectacular as a way to create housing on another planet or on the moon or something. So it's really open to anyone and everyone. And we invite you to think about what you could inspire us with by submitting your ideas. So please consider that one as well. Back up to the top, the categories, let's talk again about that briefly. Melody, you touched on this, but I want to echo what you said earlier. It's often a question we get, and that is there a category for my particular project? At a very high level, there are no categories at all, realistically. Every project is judged on its own merit, and the judges, the jury are really looking for powerful, well-articulated architecture that has photographs, documentation that support it. So any project is an award-winning project, potentially. It doesn't have to fit into any one of these particular categories. We've listed these categories to get everyone sort of focused, right? Residential custom, residential plan development. So if you can live in an object, it is a category. It fits into that. The commercial category, anything commercial or commercial interiors. So if it isn't a house, it fits into that category too. So you can see that the categories are really just broad organizational tools. They're not really like, you know, best director or best picture in the Academy Award sense. The Inspire Award, we talked about that. The Member's Choice, of course, this year. This will be the second time we've done it. I think the first time was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago. And it was very popular. So we're excited about that. And we're curious to see what you guys think about the work. So please participate. That, I think, does it for the presentation about the awards website. Just to be sure, click over awards categories one more time and submittal instruction one more time, please. Yeah, eligibility fees, schedule, we talked about all that. So again, if there's any questions for me specifically right now, please put them in the chat box. If something comes up later, let us know. You can always reach out to the chapter, and usually these questions get sent out to the entire awards committee, so we're happy to answer those as soon as we get them. And from there, I'll leave it over to Ozzy now, who could do some talking about, I think, formatting of the awards this year.
Thanks, Anders. Before we move on, I wanted to clarify also, as you're talking about the categories and the juries, that we do have separate juries, one jury for commercial and then one jury for residential, so that the projects can be looked at accordingly in that manner from experts in those fields. So now we're going to talk about sort of submittal requirements. If we are introducing the framework for design excellence, which is a bit of a change. Anders just talked about how to submit, how to tell the story of the project. The submittal instructions remain fairly consistent from what you've seen in previous years. And you can access those by simply clicking on submittal instructions, right? Thanks, Sharon. And here you get everything from, again, reminding you of the eligibility criteria to how to create your user profile, Not going to spend too much time on that, but if you scroll down to the submittal guidelines, there are a couple things here that will help you really tell the story of your project in a much easier way. You know, you can consider these minimum requirements. While there are no two submittals that are the same, these are things that will help us, you know, bring some consistency in terms of what the jury group is going to see, also how these can be graphically displayed. So at the top there, you can see, this is the number one thing that you really want to pay attention to. You want to make sure that under no circumstance that you reveal the authorship, meaning the name of your company, the architect, in the graphic portion of the submittal. That is, you know, while we do review that as submittals come in, please make sure that that doesn't happen, as it will be a cause for disqualification. And then right after that, everything is really fair game. The couple of things that you need to keep in mind are that there are a minimum of 6. You can think of them as slides rather than images as the requirement, and a maximum of 12. We often get questions of what does that mean? Can you have multiple images within one slide? That's up to you. You can tell the story of your project however you see fit. Just know that there's a maximum requirement of 12 slides, which are considered images once they're exported and uploaded to the website. And within these 12 slides maximum, there are a couple of things that we're looking for. So again, jurying and understanding of the project is really straightforward. One of those is providing floor plans, right? Floor plans and a site plan for your projects with north arrows. There are some minor exceptions there for, you know, interior projects, and a site plan might not fit the bill there, but just read through these. They're fairly straightforward, and again, they should be logical. Another thing to pay attention to in that third paragraph there are the views that should be submitted of a project. Well, we're not specifying what specifically you need to show. For exterior projects, keep in mind that all sides of a project should be shown at some level, right? Whether they're elevations, photographs, axonometrics, that's up to you. But keep in mind that the point of that is to bring some level of consistency to the design, right? Something that is holistic and not just a facade that might be applied on a project. Moving on down to the formatting and sizing, Sharon. Just a couple of things to pay attention to there. This is geared towards a 16:9 aspect ratio, right? So we're giving the maximum image size in pixels there, while ultimately you can use whatever ratio for your image that you'd like. 16:9 would maximize your real estate on a screen, right? And then with that, there's also a maximum file size once the individual slides are exported. That's 1 megabyte. And then lastly, once you register for a submittal under file name, Sharon, you'll receive an entry number. And that's just really important for us to keep track of all the submittals as you upload them, that each sort of file that you're uploading is labeled accordingly for consistency. And then the very last touch point on this, in the text information category, this is the description for that project, which is a maximum of 500 words. This is where we are asking for a minimum of 1 design measure from the framework of excellence to be sort of explained. That doesn't mean that it only has to be in the text. This could certainly be described in the story of the graphic submittal, or in both. And again, keep in mind that no credit information should be explicitly shown in the project description. That should only be part of sort of the contact information that's part of the upload instructions. And I think with that, that takes care of all the submittal requirements. This is really easy to access on the website, and you know, keep it in mind as you're developing your submittal. So I think now we're going to take it back to Anders to go over the ideas and the steps forward for our virtual gala.
Thanks, Ozzy. Yeah, the virtual gala, we've had a lot of discussion about how to pull this off. from trying to do a live event to maybe doing something that's more of a recording of a presentation that would be much like as if you were there live. And I think the latter of the two is where we are going. We've been working with some other chapters and have been looking at examples of how they've been doing it, and we've really found some great examples. So we want obviously to make it an awesome event. We're looking forward to creating a really compelling event that you want to tune into, that is going to have some of that suspense, because the awards, we don't want to let anyone know who's won before the event goes live, so that you've got a stake in it and you want to tune in. So we're working on that. Similar to the in-person gala, I think it's going to follow a format where we'll have a guest speaker. And while I can't tell you who that person is just yet, I can tell you we've inked a very high-profile architect who's doing some important work here in Orange County right now. And I think that is going to make for a compelling guest speaker. So please tune in for that. And then following the guest speaker, we're going to go right on into the awards program, much like we've done in the past when it's been live. The Interactive People's Choice Awards, of course, are going to be live at that time as well. So it'll be really interesting to see the voting for that as it comes in. We're going to have links to the gala that are going to showcase the winners. Those are going to be sent out to all of the 200 plus AIA chapters, as well as by extension, the 95,000 person membership of AIA. So I think that's a particularly compelling reason for moving to a virtual event this year. We're going to be able to broadcast this and share this and sort of crow, if you will, to a much larger audience than we've reached in the past. So we're excited for that. I think our sponsorship is excited for that, and the members should be excited as well. I know I am. And we're going to begin filming here in the summer and start with the keynote speaker filming that very shortly. So we're well on our way. We would love any suggestions that you might have, or any things to avoid if you think of any. So please share those. But otherwise, looking forward to making a really compelling video that you all will really enjoy watching. And with that, I'll head it back to Jeff and Sharon.
Okay, thank you. So there are a few questions here. They're kind of being responded to in the chat, but I'll read them for those that haven't had a chance to look. Will a recording of this webinar be available for those who could not attend? Yes. We will be notifying the membership here the first of the week. We'll get it posted so it's easily accessed. I had several people reach out to me saying, wow, I've got a meeting, I can't be there. Can you help us out? Absolutely, we're going to do that. And again, please reach out as you're going through the submission with any questions. We'll take care of you. There is another one here, all sides of each project. They're talking about elevations and photos. You know, some buildings have small parts that pop in and out. So usually what we've been able to do is photos of predominant sides. So you're looking back north, east, west, south. Would that suffice?
Yes. The intent is not to prescribe that you show every square inch of the exterior, but rather that you are showing sort of the overall envelope of the building. And obviously that applies to new construction. If this is a renovation or interior type work, that wouldn't apply. And there are some exceptions that are listed on the website. But always more than we're trying to make sure that the idea or the intent comes across, rather than a specific requirement for you to provide 4 elevation drawings. Because that could be done in photographs, it could be elevation drawings, it could be axonometrics. However you think you can show that intent, that would suffice.
Yeah, I think really the purpose is to make sure that the building you're representing can be seen as a whole, that it is a complete thought and an object, you know, that supports itself. We've had jurors look at buildings in the past and say, wow, this part of the building is particularly interesting, but it looks like a different architect designed the other 3 sides. That makes it difficult for me to acknowledge this as an award-winning project, because it lacks a certain internal order or an internal consistency. And so if your building is clearly internally consistent, and there's no question that all sides of the object appear to be members of the same family, then I don't think you need to go out of your way show all four sides. But if there's ever any question about whether or not the building is a complete whole, do what you can to demonstrate that it is. And if there is a difference in the sides of a building, perhaps there's a narrative description explaining why. And that may be actually part of your design solution for a particular need. For instance, a historical building that needed on one side to be respectful to its neighbors while on the other side could be radically different. That would be a very good reason why you'd want to make sure you explained why the sides were different. So I don't think any of the rules on that website need to be considered like hard and fast. It's all common sense. And if you put yourself into the position of one of those jurors, they are architects. They're exceptionally good in their field, so they know how to look at a project. If you think about being one of them, what's important to you about a project you've never seen before? How can I understand from some very limited photographs, diagrams, and narrative the meaning of something that I'm going to give an award to? Because I'll be gun shy about giving an award unless I feel like, wow, it's very compelling. So just think about it in that regard and not so much from a minimum required standards. Nobody has ever been disqualified. I've never seen an award-winning project not win because they didn't have 4 elevations, for instance.
Thank you. We touched on it earlier, Ozzy, and thank you about the fact we have 2 different jurors, one residential and one commercial. And I wanted to expand on that a little bit. The jury selection is very important to us. They're vetted. We will reach out and learn more about the individuals to make sure that they are consistent with what we want to have on our jurors. This year it will be virtual. It allowed us to reach a little further out, and we also engaged our housing committee to assist with the residential selection, because in residential we've got custom, but we also have multifamily. So this is a process that's actually been going on several months. And we'll be announcing the jurors here, I'd say here in July, we'll start announcing them. There's another question about access by non-members to this presentation. Yes, we will have access. We'll put it on our website. I'm not quite sure where that's going to be yet. An e-blast will go out early in the week. I realize that some of you may not be getting that e-blast. If you can't get it from a member within your office, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get a link to it. Let's see, there is one here that just came in. I'm just quickly, with a virtual gala, is there merit to providing a set of digital design boards as opposed to a physical set? There is, I'm going to say yes and no. Now, I'll jump in before, if the committee wants to think about it a little bit. Years ago, I think around 2015, we negotiated with John Wayne Airport about displaying our boards. And I'm in that process of speaking with them again. It wouldn't be for 2020, but it may be for 2021. And we were able to go ahead and include 2 years worth of boards and display them. That, from my standpoint here at AIA Orange County as staff, that's why we want your board, so we can get you out there in front of people. They have lots of space. I'm going to know, it takes a little while to work through the process with them, but early on conversation, meaning earlier this month, was we would be looking into 2021.
Jeff, is there any reason why the members couldn't also just simply email a PDF or a JPEG of the board to Sharon and have that aggregated in a folder, you know, at AIAOC for perhaps inclusion on the website at a later date or in some other marketing materials that might go out? Because if you've produced the object to be printed, it's easily electronic as well, and it's just a matter of distributing that file.
I think that's a great idea. We can certainly go ahead and do that and add to our design award site or house it someplace where it's very accessible to anybody.
Yeah, I think that would be great, even if on the website we had a rotating gallery of all of the boards from all of the submissions with our members' names on them. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I like that idea. We'll get that going. Here's another question. Can a project that didn't win last year be resubmitted this year to try again? You bet.
Absolutely.
You can resubmit a project an unlimited number of times, frankly, as long as it fits into the general 10-year category that we've got on the website. We're looking for projects that are more recent than are ancient. So we've established this kind of 10-year bracket so that if it's a project currently now that's on the boards, for instance, or one that finished last year or the year before that, or even 8 years ago, that's fine. And if it's been submitted before and didn't win, that may be only because perhaps the submission wasn't as strong as it could be, or perhaps the jury wasn't interested in that particular project type that particular year. I've seen this happen year and year and year over each other, where a jury will be tuned to a particular zeitgeist. There may be a particular idea today that motivates them to want to look at and honor certain projects, not because the others aren't equally viable or good, but because the ones they've chosen struck a chord with them that particular time. And that's the value of, and also the detriment of having a jury of our peers, in that they're motivated by what's happening today as much as we are. And if your project is from 2 years ago and doesn't speak to today, it might be a great project, but it might not tickle their fancy. But I've seen projects come over from past years and be recognized the second or third time. So I would always encourage you, if it's a good project, by all means, submit it. And make sure your submission is as best possible. If it didn't win before, ask yourself the question, why? Did I not thoroughly explain what the project was, both visually and through my text? Go back and look at that, creating a strong submission entry document, and find out what things could you do to make it better. Because like I said earlier, we'd love to give as many possible awards as we can. So all of that good work that hasn't won already, submit it now. It could win this year, absolutely.
Sharon just notified me that when you are uploading your submission, there's actually a box for you to go ahead and upload your submission board as well.
Great.
All right. Any other questions, anyone? You can pull yourself off mute if you'd like to. Well, I am not seeing any, and we are just closing in on 1 p.m. Committee, thank you very, very much. What an excellent job. You know, how great this is to have. Corey, thank you so much for attending today. I really don't know other chapters that are going to this level to help out their members, and how easy it is for us to do virtually and include someone like Corey as well from another part of the US and also involved at a national level in another chapter. So feel free to reach out. If you come up with a question, you're thinking about like, shoot, I should ask that, send an email over. We'll make sure we get you taken care of. Please open your submissions. As Melody mentioned, the price goes up, I think it's around July 24th maybe, and we close earlier this year. It's closing, I think, the 4th. It's not closing another week or so after that. So you're going to be hearing more from us, e-blasts every week. We want you to submit. We want you to have a great time with this virtual gala. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Yeah, thanks, Corey.